Hello there, my very good friends. On today's wrestling news, Roman Reigns has finally broken his silence on Jimmy Uso's DUI.
We're getting another wrestling wedding, this time in NXT.
Ilja Dragunov was busted wide open on last night's NXT.
And the real reason Keith Lee has been working dark matches on Raw and SmackDown. I'm Adam Wilborn.
And I'm Andy Murray.
And this is the news.
Right, we're going to kick things off by rewinding a little bit, going back to Jimmy Uso's DUI arrest in early July, Pensacola, Florida. He was caught speeding, pulled over by the officer. You know the deal by now. We've spoken about it a lot. Returned to WWE television that same week and was the SmackDown Tag Team Champion, 12 days later? Something like that. So, a serious situation. It was his second time in 3 years he's been arrested for a DUI, but it had no real on-screen consequences or anything like that. Roman Reigns, his cousin, has come through. He's been interviewed by the New York Post ahead of SummerSlam, and he's got some comments here on Jimmy, and I think he's very, very fair about the whole thing. So I've got a bigger quote from Roman that I'll read to you in a minute here, but he did criticise, he wouldn't condone Jimmy's behaviour or decision making, and said that the arrest obviously didn't shine a great light on WWE or the family. He did reveal, however, that he called Jimmy for a mental checkup after the situation. Now, I've got a longer quote here, and it's pretty clear from reading this that while Roman is yeah, this was stupid, this was bad, this was awful, everything else, rightly critical of his behaviour, he also wants to see Jimmy kind of grow from. He's a compassionate guy by all accounts, Roman Reigns, and this reflects that. We're all human, we're all cynics, we all make mistakes. Instead of what people might feel you should give up on somebody or maybe turn your back on that type of behaviour, that's one way to do it. But I don't think that's the way to push through and gain experience or make progressive movements of becoming a better man or a better human. So for me, it was diving into it with great attention, great love, and very thorough communication to make sure that my family is continually bettering themselves and putting themselves in a position to make better decisions. He summed that up really well, I think. The whole situation was, the report came out from Dave Meltzer the week after this whole deal when Jimmy returned to TV, that WWE considered the storyline with the Usos and Roman Reigns too big to mess with, to adjust and everything. And you can agree and disagree with that approach. Their company has always been your business is your business. But it was a very dangerous and worrying situation and a stupid move on Jimmy's behalf, which Roman doesn't shy away from. But he's an honest guy, Roman, and I appreciate this perspective from him, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Not a great deal to add to what he said there. Like you say, Andy, he completely hit the nail on the head. We sort of said the exact same thing when it happened. It was so disappointing to hear about another DUI for Jimmy Uso. But you've got to counteract that with the fact that he's clearly got some issue here. So we sort of tried to balance bollocking him for making a stupid mistake in the midst of such a huge storyline in particular, as you say there, Andy. But also, he clearly needs help, hopefully, by the sounds of what Roman's saying there, obviously with that family unit they've got, and with the WWE, occasionally they are a good corporation. They do, work with their wrestlers, and I hope that he's getting all the help that he needs, and with them, like you say, entrusting these SmackDown Tag Team titles for the time being, at least with them, it does seem to suggest that they are still behind the Usos and particularly Jimmy in this scenario. So hopefully this is the last we will have to talk about something like this, because it's always awful news to wake up to whenever we hear stuff like that. But in better news, Andy Murray, get your top hat and tails ready, because we are going to another wrestling wedding. Dexter Lumis and Indi Hartwell are getting married. In storyline, at least. I'm loving the Index storyline in NXT, I've got to say. And on last night's show, they teamed up to tag against Robert Stone and Jesse Camilla, victorious in that match. And post-match, Indi Hartwell got down on one knee, proposed to Dexter Lumis with this garish-looking ring that he popped on. It's happening. They're getting married. Congratulations. I'm very happy for the both of them.
Yeah, the ring kind of looked like one of those ones you'd wear in, Skyrim for a stats boost. Hey, I've got 25% more mana now that I've got this ring on. The thing about wrestling weddings, right, is whether you like the content or not, they always do well in the ratings. They always attract extra levels of interest. They're kind of immortal in that regard. So I would expect that WWE are going to see some nice attention for this or whenever it ends up going down. Presumably they'll do something on the show. show. Even if you go back to earlier this year, Kip Sabian and Penelope Ford's wedding, like, grossly outdrew Edge, who was on NXT in the same quarter hour. He, like, smoked the guy. People tune in for weddings. So, like, I'm not surprised, actually, that they've done this. It's quite a quick romance, though, isn't it? They only had their first date last week, and now they're tying the knot. Gee whiz. Whatever next.
There's so much to look forward to, though, as well, because with this, like, it's such an open goal, because, like, not only have you got the wedding, particularly with the Gargano's involvement, which you just know is going to be brilliant television.
Yeah.
You've got the speeches. Dexter Lumis has to make a speech as the groom. Like, who's going to be his best man? Is that going to be Johnny Gargano? How's Austin Theory going to factor into all this? And what's going to happen on the Stag and Hen Dues? Honestly, I'm so excited.
Yeah, I was going to say there, I sound like a 50-year-old dad complaining about this, like going, they've only been dating for a week, but hey, listen, sometimes like NXT is actually better when it's dumber. So hey, let's go. Bring
and
your
when
popcorn.
You know, you know. So there you go, everyone.
There you go, exactly. Let's what's my next story? Ilja Dragunov. Totally forgot. We got lost in Index mayhem. Ilja Dragunov busted wide open on last night's NXT. Had a match with Roderick Strong. Roddy was originally supposed to face Kushida, but Kushida couldn't make the show. He wasn't medically cleared. Roddy did a Diamond Mine Open challenge. Dragunov answered it. Dragunov won. Dragunov got cut open. It was about halfway through the match. Suddenly, I said to Adam on the pre-show call we had, I just looked down at my coffee, picked it up, had a sip, looked over, and suddenly he was covered in blood. So, about halfway through, but he soldiered on because he's crazy, and he came out the other end. WWE.com have uploaded an article stating that Dragunov had 8 stitches to close the wound after the show. That might be exaggerated for kayfabe, who knows? It might be a little bit more drama to show you how wild this guy is ahead of his big match with Walter. But look, Dragunov gets messed up in the ring. You've seen his chest after he's faced Walter. This is nothing new for him. And that he still finished the match with his torpedo headbutt thing, despite pissing blood, is something else, isn't it?
Yeah, I was going to say, as you mentioned it there, Andy. Well, the good news is he hasn't got a big match against someone who's going to kick the crap out of him in a few days' time. Good luck against Walter, Ilja Dragunov. Yeah, his chest was bad enough last night with Roddy chopping him. I really like them beating the crap out of each other last night. I thought they worked really well together, to be honest. And we were talking about this as well on the pre-news call. I mean, me and Andy say this, but Dragunov make that match just so much more visceral. I love it when people get busted open accidentally. Not that you would wish it on anyone, but I have to say it works so much better with someone like Ilja Dragunov, doesn't it? Like, I'm not saying he should blade or get busted open in every match, but my God, he looked like an absolute monster just tearing through him, didn't he?
He absolutely did.
Oh, my days. Right, let's conclude by talking about Keith Lee. He's been working dark matches before Raw and SmackDown, and now, thanks to Mike Johnson of PW Insider, we know the reason why they are looking to refine Lee and kind of decide on what works best for the former NXT champion moving forward. He has been squashing people in these dark matches, always, standing tall at the end. And if this is taking a step back to go forward, it's the right thing to do. He sort of did that weird 50-50 thing with Karrion Kross for a bit. He obviously came back and immediately lost that Bobby Lashley Open Challenge. I don't think it was for the WWE. It was like to get a shot at the WWE Championship or whatever it was. Look, Keith Lee's fantastic. He obviously had that. I was away last week, but I certainly heard about his fight against death. All the complications and fallout from him getting COVID and heart issues and what have you. Look, Keith Lee, if you think back to that Survivor Series, has the potential to be one of the biggest stars in WWE. They just have to book him right, and Vince has to take his head off and think like actually how normal wrestling fans think, because he's charismatic, he's ridiculously athletic, he's entertaining, he's everything you could possibly want, and hopefully putting him in dark matches and going, right, what Keith Lee are presenting here might be a best thing going forward, Andy.
A rare moment of disagreement on the news. I think this is wild. I don't understand this. What was going so wrong in NXT that they couldn't just do that on the main roster?
Yeah.
I don't really understand their approach here, but it was kind of clear when he came back that they didn't have any clue what they were doing when he lost to Bobby, and then he lost to Karrion Kross. And it's just like, okay, we're back to normal now, are we? I think pro wrestling is really simple, and people sometimes with stories like this emerging, it sounds like they're overcomplicating it a little bit.
Yeah.
Keith Lee gets over because he has great presence and because he's like this massive, powerful dude who can do things that men half his size cannot do in the ring. So emphasize that, hide whatever perceived weaknesses there are. That's how it should work. For me, personally, that's how I feel about the situation. Yeah.
I think that's completely fair enough, Andy. And there's still a bit of me that's holding out hope on. Obviously, Big E's got he hasn't got the briefcase technically. Baron Corbin stole it from him, but Big E's Mr. Money in the Bank, so you maybe think that that's the direction they're going to go in, or maybe he cashes in on Saturday after the WWE. It doesn't matter. I still have a hope that Keith Lee could be the guy to dethrone Roman Reigns because they just work so well together in that Survivor Series match. And like you say, it's not difficult to present Keith Lee.
So easy.
But yeah, make me miss him, bring him back, and just push him, in the words of one of my favourite wrestlers, to the moon because he bloody deserves it. And like you say, he's just sensational. But it's really easy. Don't put him in a tennis skirt and give him crap music to start off with, basically. Right, anyway, let's move on to your Twitter questions at WhatCulture, WWE, of course, on Twitter, if you want to get in touch with us. First question today comes from Shane Daniels and Bella. First of all, Bella, good girl.
Good dog.
Good girl. Shane says, Bella was wondering, with the addition of Bryan and Punk seemingly imminent, how close is AEW to having too many wrestlers for 3 hours of TV? Shane also suggests, them signing people like Murphy, Strowman, Ruby, Bray, Bronson. Is there room for them, he asks?
Yeah, you could make the argument straight away that they already have too many, right? CM Punk's debuting on Friday, of course. There's a lot of people who need a lot of airtime. Cody Rhodes said this best a week or so ago on his latest media call. You can't wish away good talent. So if CM Punk or Daniel Bryan or whoever else you want to name becomes available, you gotta sign them. You gotta sign them because you can do business with them. You can do good business with them, and then you worry about the consequences later on. Unfortunately, the consequences of that are you have a big bloated roster. It's going to get to the point where they're going to have to let some people go, unfortunately. Yeah. Some contracts are going to expire, not get renewed and everything else, and then we'll go through that whole situation when we come to it. But yeah, it's a really valid point. I'm glad you bring it up. We'll just have to see how it pans out with
or your other suggestion, Andy, 12 hours of dark on YouTube.
Yeah, 54 matches.
Look, AEW have changed the game already. I mean, could they instigate something like a not like a rolling roster? I don't know what I mean, but in terms of changing people in and out, they don't always have to have people on TV. We've grown used to that with WWE, but like Cody goes away to do filming, you could bring someone in for a 4-month run and then have them go away for a bit so you can change things up and people it always feels a bit fresher. Hopefully that's the situation they go in, because let's be honest, they don't need financially to cut anyone because they've got unlimited money. So who knows? But yes, it's going to be very interesting going forward over the next few months to see how that roster changes. Right, second question today comes from J-Man. Oh, I've not been looking forward to this one. Jay says, greetings, legends. Do you think WWE is going to swerve us this weekend at SummerSlam and have Goldberg win the WWE Championship, possibly via a 2-minute squash match? I would honestly not be surprised. Yeah, we're assuming, Andy, that Lashley, as he should, retains the WWE Championship. But this is WWE after all.
You never know. You never know, do you? I mean, Goldberg has had 2 Universal title reigns in the 7 matches he's had since he came back to face Brock the first time. So, hey, you never know. And look, the guy does do pretty decent ratings. When Goldberg shows up, the number usually goes up as well. So there's every chance that WWE do go to that well. From a creative standpoint, obviously wouldn't want that to happen. But also kind of from an online reaction, it would be quite funny. Yeah. So there is a silver lining to every cloud here. Unquestionably.
And I'll tell you what, I'll do you a trade-up, Andy. Goldberg can win the WWE Championship if and only if Gage gets wrecked by Bobby Lashley and Dominic Mysterio electrically shares his dad on the ramp at SummerSlam, because that's been booked by me and Hamflet for about a year, I think, now. So that you have to give us something in exchange, WWE. Senor Benja gives us our final question of the day, saying, Saludos from Spain. For the Alexa Bliss versus Eva Marie match, would you prefer it to be a playground match a la Firefly Funhouse to make Alexa's spooky bollocks work and hide Eva Marie's pinkness, I mean greenness?
Pinkness, fair enough.
I'd rather it wasn't happening, if I'm honest, Andy.
I mean, they kind of have to, don't they? Like, what are they going to do? Tell them to go out there and trade rest holds for 10 minutes? You really see Eva Marie working that headlock there, Michael. Yeah, why not? Why not just go all in on the silliness? Yeah, I mean, I don't really see any other option. I don't want to see them like doing a proper wrestling match, for goodness sake.
I'm really scared. I mean, I'm hoping you were pointing out with the timings of SummerSlam that it's going to have to be quite a tight show because of boxing, I think you said. Let's just have a 2-minute match and not involve a doll. How about that? I'll just take that. A wrestling match that doesn't involve a doll, and I'll give it 3 stars in our rating.
It's a low bar here, isn't it?
Yeah. Right, let's move on to today's and finally, and it feels like a weekly occurrence, this, that I just read a tweet out from John Silver, but he's great at the Twitter game, @Silver1 if you want to follow him, as he announces, I can't wait to officially change my AEW music to Scatman. Right, Scat has newer definitions, but we are thinking of Scatman John here, Andy, and him coming out to Be-ba-ba-ba-da-bo would pop my little tits on.
Yeah, Scatman Johnny Hungy going. I'm not very good at that, but skibby dibby dibby doop ba bee ba 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 bo.
Yeah, it needs to happen. I mean,
bo ba ba beat up.
We've got, what if we like look at the selection of music we already got? I mean, come on, sweet TK. You can stretch the scat match, John. Come on. Especially for Johnny Hungy. Please. Let us know other wrestlers who should have random 90s songs for their entrance theme in the comment section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And subscribe to What Culture Wrestling on either iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from for daily wrestling podcasts. Myself and the Dandy Boys sitting down to review NXT and preview AEW Dynamite a little bit later on today. Plus, you can let us know your thoughts and Twitter questions on Twitter at WhatCultureWWE. While you're there, follow both of us. You can follow Andy Murray at...
You can follow me at Andy H. Murray. The H today stands for Habromania. Ooh. The definition of which is insanity featuring cheerful delusions, or as I like to call it, wrestling stan Twitter.
Was it you who shared the Twitter account if people had Twitter when Goldberg lost his streak today?
Yeah.
Go and check it out on Andy's Twitter. It's great.
It's just perfect. It's just perfect.
Not more. I'd have booked it better. Oh, brilliant. Here we go again. Fantastic. Right, follow me on Twitter at Adam Wilborn. Follow us all at What Culture WWE. But for now, thanks to Andy Murray. Thank you for joining us. And we will see you soon. Be-ba-ba-ba-da-bo.